Thank you. Mr. Barr, I want to commend you for stepping forward. Thank you very much. And I want to say thank you to your family as well for being so supportive in this endeavor. I'm really pleased to have all of you here, so thank you for doing that. Mr. Barr, later this month, I do plan on reintroducing Sarah's Law, which is a bill that would require the detention of illegal aliens who have been charged with a crime that resulted in the death or serious injury, bodily injury of another person. Now that sounds pretty common sense, but I'll give you a little background. This bill is named after Sarah Root. She was a resident of Council Bluffs, Iowa, and Sarah was killed by an illegal alien who was driving drunk. And that alien had a blood alcohol content of more than 3 times the legal limit, yet he was allowed to post bond and has not been seen since. It's important to me that Congress act to close these loopholes in our immigration system and do better to enforce the laws that are already existing on the books. And I know that Attorney General Sessions, he had a real passion for this, and he had a strong record of trying to make sure that we're correcting wrongs in the system. How do you, as Attorney General, plan on making sure that we are restoring the rule of law in our immigration system?
Well, first, that sounds like a very commonsensical bill and something that I would certainly be inclined to support. I think one of our major problems, as the President says, is that the immigration laws just have to be changed and to provide sensible and common sense ways of processing immigration and claims of asylum. Right now, this goes all the way. This goes back 27 years. We were facing exactly the same kind of problem, maybe on a smaller scale. But Congress has to, where people are abusing the asylum system, coming in, they're being coached as to what to say, and then once they come in, we don't have the facilities to keep them, and they're released into the population. And this was a big abuse, as I say, 27 years ago, and it's gotten worse. So we need to change the laws to stop that kind of abuse and enable us to run a lawful immigration system where we process people into the country who are entitled to come into the country, and we keep out those that are flouting our laws. And it's long overdue. And the President is right that until we're able to do that, we're just not going to be able to get control over illegal immigration, and it creates a lot of unsafe conditions for many people.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and I appreciate your thoughts on that. This is a very important issue. I think all of us understand that immigration is so vital to our country, but it has to be done in the right manner. And for those that are causing bodily injury and death to those here in the United States, we want to make sure that they are brought to justice. And in this case, that illegal, undocumented was not brought to justice. And I feel a lot of empathy for that family. I'll move into another situation that's really important to Iowans. According to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, after drug dealing, human trafficking is tied with arms dealing as the second largest criminal industry in the world, and it generates about $32 billion each year. The Department of Justice has said that 83% of sex trafficking victims identified in the United States are U.S. citizens, with the average age of a victim being between 12 and 14 years. 12 and 14 years. Since 2007, there have been over 300 cases of human trafficking in Iowa alone. And Iowa is a very rural state. 300 cases. That's very concerning to my constituents back home. What do you see as the main contributor to human trafficking here in the United States? And then how can the DOJ impact and combat and prevent those heinous crimes?
This is an area that frankly wasn't very much on the radar scope of the Department of Justice when I was last there. I know it's it's an abhorrent area of criminality that I know the department and Attorney General Sessions have been focused on and have put in place various programs and entities within the department to focus on it and work with state and local law enforcement on it. I'm not sure what the major contributor to it is. It's an area that I'm going to have to study when I get into the department and see what are the factors contributing to it.
Okay, I appreciate that. And as I mentioned in my question as well, drugs and drug trafficking, that is also a very, very big industry. And in fiscal year 2017, 65% of drug-related prison sentences in Iowa were related to methamphetamine. We talk a lot about the opioid crisis, but in Iowa, it still is meth. Mm-hmm. In 2016, Iowa reported over 1,500 founded child abuse reports relating to methamphetamine being found in the child's body. According to the DEA, most of the meth available in the United States is being produced in Mexico and smuggled across our southern border. How do you see the situation at our southern border contributing to the prevalence of controlled substance use here in the United States?
Well, as been pointed out earlier, it is the major avenue by which drugs come into the country. Heroin, fentanyl, all the serious drugs are coming across that border. And again, I feel it is a critical part of border security that we need to have barriers on the border. We need a barrier system on the border to get control over the border. And I think obviously there's some places that more of the traffic comes over than others, but unless you have a system across the border, you're not going to be able to deal with it because you'll just displace it. If you build a barrier in one place, you'll just displace it to another. So we need a barrier system across the border. Part of that is illegal immigration, but a big part of it also is preventing the influx of drugs.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And you stated earlier that really the head of the snake lies outside of the United States. Is there a way that DOJ can be working with additional ideas, methodology with other departments that you might think would help?
Yes, this is an area, again, because I'm out of the government, I don't know how it's functioning, how the drug war is being coordinated, but I think justice can play a big role in pushing for partners like the State Department, Defense Department, the intelligence agencies, and so forth to help deal with this. It's not, to me, not just a law enforcement problem, it's a national security problem.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned as well the situation on the border where we do need barriers in place to control the influx of whether it's drugs, human trafficking, gun trafficking, so forth. Do you believe that sanctuary cities play a role in harboring some of those activities?
Yes, I do. I think there are a number of sort of of factors that have a hydraulic effect in that they pull people into the United States or induce them to take the hazards of coming into the United States and coming up hundreds of miles through Mexico and so forth. And things like sanctuary cities where they feel that they'll be able to come up and hide and be protected is one of those factors that I think is irresponsible because it attracts the illegal aliens coming in. And obviously I think that the main problem with sanctuary cities is that they're not giving us information about criminals that they have in their custody. This is not chasing after, families or anything like that. This is going after criminals who the state local law enforcement have in custody, and not allowing us to take custody of them and get them out of the country. That's the problem with sanctuary cities.
Correct, which could be the situation with Edwin Mejia, who killed Sarah Root. So we would love to see that young man brought to justice. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.